All right. I'm live on all three places. So Instagram's right here. It's Facebook and YouTube live. Project Wild Orca Day 2. My Instagram title of this video is Follow the Process or Die. It's a dramatic hook. Follow the process or die. So this morning, I woke up and did my study. I actually slept in a little bit. Last night didn't get to bed till almost midnight. So 3 hours, 4 hours isn't going to jam. So I got to get more than 5 every night. And that's not enough. So I woke up this morning and got going and went and did my little morning run. And I do my morning run. So my process is during the week, I wake up at 3:14. Next weekend, I might just do that all 7 days, but wake up in the morning at 3:14, go out for a run. And I've been working to listen through the Bible in its entirety for this year. And so I've been doing that. And so go out for my morning run, listen to the Bible for about 20 minutes, just listen to hear what I hear. Then I come back and then I go immediately into study something that applies to my business. And so this morning I went out and we were listening to Matthew, a portion of Matthew, parables, and had a couple of things that hit me. I was like, that's interesting. I want to process that later. And then came back and I was reading, finishing up. No, I read the entirety of section 2 for $100 Million Leads, Alex Hormozi's book. And what came to me is just, I took that into a stack, and what I came out of it is I have a process, my process, the way that I work. Like I've done a lot of work to figure out what that is. And it's called the D5 or the D4 method, right? So we're going to talk through what that is for a little bit, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to read my stack. But I figured out that in order to maintain and provide value, there needs to be value in these. And so if you're going to spend your time, thank you, I need to be able to provide value in order for your time to be worth it, because nothing is free. The only thing that's free is something that's instantaneous. And so free and instantaneous, there's no value there. But you're investing your time to watch this. So it's imperative for me to actually make sure I make it valuable. So what is the D4 or the D5 process? I'm going to explain it to you. And then here's what I want you to do. As you work through this, I want you to comment whether or not you think D4 or D5 makes more sense. Okay? I'm staring around for a whiteboard. It's fine. So my process that I figured out, the way I process through things, is it's broken down into 4 or 5 parts. First part, D, desire. Before you do anything, you have to understand where it is you want to go. What is it that you desire? What's your desired outcome? If you're sitting there and you're wondering, how am I going to go somewhere? How do I get from point A to point B? If you don't know where you're going, you have zero chance of getting there. A part of that is you also have to know where you're at. So the desire phase of the D4, D5 process is understanding where it is you want to go and understanding where you're at. So if I want to go to 7-figure coaching business, which is Project Wild Orca, if I want to take from 0 to a 7-figure coaching business, I got to start with where I'm at, which is 0 in terms of dollars made. Not exactly right, but that's where I'm starting. Up to 7-figure coaching business. That's my desire, right? Now that's the large scale, but this scales up or down. I can use this same process if I'm figuring out where I want to go eat. But this is how I process. This is how I process information. And it's important because you'll see this come through in the stack when I read it. Step 1 is desire. Where is it that I desire to go? You have to have somewhere we want to go. Otherwise, you're just wandering. And there's not very much progress made while wandering. So step 1 of the D exclamation point 4 or 5 process is desire. Step 2, once you figure out where it is you want to go and you know where you're at, now comes the data gathering phase. This, for me as an engineer, is really, really important. I truly believe that most projects, if you're going from has to be done right the first time, you need to spend 50% of your time planning. That's what I learned in industry. About 50% of the time, the total time is spent planning, figuring it out, organizing, figuring out problems before they get there, solving other problems. There's a planning phase, and then there's the implementation. Data. you have to gather data. Now, gathering data also includes testing sometimes. You got to gather data, and then you got to test. And then you got to gather some more data, and then you got to test some more, then gather and test and gather and test. It's an iterative process. But the data phase, you have to pull in all the information you can. Go and take a look at the full system and just kind of pull in all the information. So right now, as you'll see, I am in the data phase. I'm still implementing, I'm still testing. This is part of the data, but I'm in the data phase. I'm gathering everything I need to be able to make a plan and move forward. This is part of my process, and this was an important realization for me today. So first D, desire. Second D, data. Gather all the data you need to be able to start providing and start testing and start implementing solutions. Little piecemeal solutions all the way to the big ones. Got it? Third D, and this is where it could be the fourth D. In the original D4 method, this is design. You need to design the solution. So desire, find out where you want to go. What's your desire? Where do you desire to go? What is the data you need to gather to be able to pull everything in to be able to make a plan to move forward? And then you design the solution. Now, the design solution actually has 2 steps. And this is why I think it might be the D5 method. Design is actually made up of determine and decide. Determine and decide. 1, determine all possible paths to get from point A to point B. This is the brainstorming. This is, okay, if I want to lose 20 pounds, I could cut off my leg. Totally possible. That is an answer. Is that going to be relevant to what I want? No, which is why the decide phase will filter out. But this is the level you go through. You need to process through with the data you gathered of what you can do, all possible solutions, not just the ones you think you do. And this is the expansive thing. This is where thinking outside the box as an engineer really, really fucking helps. Because if this is the direction I'm going, I could expand all possible solutions. If I want to go to point A, I could go here. I could go here. I could go here. When you're real and true with yourself, some of these options open up are pretty dark, pretty wrong. It's fine. This is just a brainstorming fan. So you determine all possible paths to get from point A to point B. That's determined. Then you go to decide. Of all the possible paths you determine, some of them are easily avoidable, easily marked off, easily crossed out as not going to get me where I want. You make a decision to select 1 or 2, maybe 3 of the possible paths, and you pick the ones that are relevant. Here's a really important word to remember. Relevant. What is relevant? In the world that I work in the world that I live in, relevant answers the question of, does this get me what I want? Simplest way to define relevant. Does this action, does this decision, does this step get me what I want? Does it give me what I desire? If I want to lose 20 pounds and run a marathon, cutting off my leg isn't relevant. Got it? Relevancy is the importance of being able to answer the question, does this get me what I want? So after you've determined all the paths, you get to decide. Pick 1 or 2 or 3 at the max of the possible paths that get you in the direction of what you want. So if I want to go run a marathon and I want to lose 20 pounds to do it, one of those paths is to hire a coach. Another path might just be buy a bunch of books and then figure out how to do it on my own. Another one would just be to go out and start running and see what breaks. Makes sense. Now, after you have figured out where you want to go, desire, you've gathered all the data you need by testing and implementing and then pulling back, and then you go into this determine phase, and then you test, and then you come back to do data, and then back and forth, and it's not a straightforward path. After you do all this, you determine the best 1 or 2, you design your solution by just determining and then decide, and then here comes the magic. Anybody want to guess what the 4th or 5th or 6th D is? Do. That's it. The last D is do. After you figure out where you want to go, after you gather all the data you need to be able to get to where you want to go, after you design your process or after you determine all possible paths and then decide the ones that are relevant, you're going to have some clear actions that are placed out in front of you. And that is where it will die unless you actually fucking do something. Action is the only way to move forward. You have to do it. Desire, data, determine, decide, and do. The D5 design method. Kind of like that. Where do you want to go? What do you need to know in order to pick a path? What are all the possible paths you can take with what you know? What are the one or two that are going to get you there the most likely? And then do the things on that path. That's where I'm at. I'm going to be combining Garrett White's 30 Days plan from the ClickFunnels book and Alex Hormozi's $100 million leads program to build a 7-figure coaching business from zero. It's the secret master plan. Tell everybody. I'm going to strategically combine them. Now, here's where this comes in. I'm gathering data. Figuring out what I know, figuring out what I don't know, making my process work inside of those two plans, because it's not necessarily everything that Garrett says to do exactly. It's figure out what I need to do and what I need to gain to go after what it is. My people aren't the same as his people, so therefore I might not have exactly the same plan. But that doesn't mean his process doesn't work. It doesn't mean his path doesn't work. My process, my exact specifics of what he's talking about, while being a little bit different, are going to follow the same process, the same plan. So that's where I'm at. Now, I'm going to combine this. I'm going to put this on the back end because I like it. And if you're still here, you're here. Here is my stack. For those of you that don't know, the stack is a cognitive behavior therapy tool that I use as part of my program. It's part of the Wake Up Warrior program. It's a series of questions that lets you talk and lets you answer things for yourself. So this is my heart ripped open and played out and displayed. And I find great power in being able to read this because this means nobody has anything on me because I put it on the internet. Take the time to build the map. For those of you on Instagram, I will post a link in the comments. Everyone else, you're seeing it live. Take the time to build the map. Brandon plus planning for the next 60 days. This is what was on my mind this morning. Why is Brandon plus planning for the next 60 days triggered you to pray? As I'm reading $100 million leads this morning, it talks about how to create lead magnets. It definitely got the juices flowing, and I'm trying to figure out how to align that with the 30-day plan. I'm currently diving headfirst into warm outreach and getting some feedback. Do you have a brochure I can show someone? Do you have something that shows how you do what you do? Do you have something that reduces my risk and my word of a referral and lets them make their own decision? When I combine this with Garrett's 30-day plan, he starts out for the first 7 days just figuring out his foundation and then his client. When Alex had to make $150,000 in a month, he sat down and planned all possible ways he could do it and moved when one looked like it was possible, disregarding all the impossible ones. Garrett was just studying and teaching while he was planning. Garrett was just studying and teaching while he's planning, just like I'm doing, adding value into the marketplace. Like this. What I'm seeing is a need for action and a concurrent need for planning, making my own plan and then following it. What is the story you're telling yourself created by this trigger about Brandon planning for the next 60 days and the situation? Simply, blindly, moving forward doesn't work. And planning everything out while stationary doesn't work either. In order to win, I need to plan as I go and trust that what I need will be available when I need it. That's a big one. Describe the single word feelings that arise for you when you tell yourself that story. Eager, trusting, excited, cautious, strategic. I want God to know. Okay, so with this idea in mind of needing a plan, I want to discuss the revelations that hits during my study this morning. First, reading Matthew, there was a parable about workers and getting paid. Basic premise was that a guy hired workers for a day for 1 coin. And as he went around town throughout the day, he kept seeing people standing around, and each time he told them to go work in the vineyard. He even did this near the end of the day with only 1 hour of work left. At the end of the day, he paid the last hired first and paid everyone the same as the first hired. There was an uproar, and he basically said, I paid you fairly, and I chose to pay them the same. My immediate reaction was about fairness and equality of work and the value of time and how I imagined the next day that no one would come back to work for the full day. As it kept running through, I thought about it and processed it, and it's more than that. So this is a parable. It's in the Bible, right? And Jesus is spreading the good news. So if the coin is connection to God, then it doesn't really matter when someone comes to collect payment. Spiritual connection, regardless of what you call it, is still connection. It's something tangible, and it's also priceless. Having a spiritual connection now is all that matters for me. And it doesn't matter to me at all that I didn't have it before, because I have it now and it can't be taken away. In terms of this idea of planning a business, how does this parable relate to me there? Again, I could make it about money, but I'm not going to. Impact, alignment, and purpose. My product is transformation, an idea. And it doesn't matter when someone comes and starts doing the work. And the value I give everyone will increase over time, even if the money stays the same or decreases per person. The best way to start then is to make sure I am providing value from the start. My lives and my videos aren't teaching as much as talking right now. I can adjust that. I want God to know. The second that I got from my listening this morning was talking about false leadership. Jesus was talking about the Pharisees. I don't know if that's spelled right. And he said, they sit in the seat of Moses, so you should do what they say, but should not follow what they do. They only do things to be seen and not be done. This is really interesting for a few reasons. It's a spin on the do as I say, not as I do statement, in that it really is being called out as poor leadership. There's also the idea that, though, that even if they do not do, you should. There are some things that even if the people preaching them are not doing them, they are worthy of being done. This was really interesting for me. There is something there. I think a lot of people say to do things according to, for example, religious dogma, and then don't do them themselves. That doesn't mean that what they say is wrong, just that they are shitty at doing them. The last piece of doing things to be seen instead of doing them to be done hit home. This hits right at what I've realized I've been doing. My full going all in, my full participation inside a warrior, inside of my own home, had a piece of this. Doing things to be seen, not to be done. Unless I'm doing them because I believe and would do them without being seen, then I'm really not committed to doing them. So as I get better at removing the lies and limiting beliefs, I'm also getting better at leading for the doing, not the being seen. I want God to know. Last revelation piece. Free things aren't free. They take time. So if someone provides value for that time for free, it builds trust in the value of what they have to offer for money. This changes the way I see lead magnets. I always thought it was just to be valuable. It just had to be valuable enough to get their email address. That sounds ridiculous typing it. And it applies to the content I'm putting out. Make it worth their time to watch, and watch as the engagement goes up. Make the lead magnet worth their time to read, and the low cost or free will be absolutely worth it. Now, I don't need to overthink this. I just need to keep this in mind with everything I'm putting out as far as teaching. Provide value, don't just make the noise. I want God to know. I can see that the $100 million leads book needs to be gone through on a step-by-step basis, which is definitely part of my process. And going through it quickly will help inform the plan. What I'm seeing is that the next 3 days, followed by the 2 days in council, needs to be all just planning. Modifying the 30-day plan for me, incorporating the $100 million warm outreach campaign and content, setting up my core 4, documenting it all in the format of the secret master plan. and figuring out how to document it all on YouTube for the long game. Bam, here we are. The planning I take now is going to make all the difference for me in the future. Make my lead magnet my journey for now, my content. What it needs to be will pop when it's time. The outline that Dylan has for the committed is actually exactly following that. Leads, then go back and do offer based on the work from the 30 days in identifying my target, map it out, work it out. This is me doing my D4 process. Share it. Like I did. Dear God, as I'm writing notes about lead magnets, the path beyond the D4 method opened up pretty clearly. The D4 method is a fantastic process, probably very akin to what I think most engineers would work through. Hey, the D4 method. Really, it's like a D5 or D6. I just had the idea of shifting it to the D5 design method and then tying it into the 4D engineer model. Thoughts? Teach it on Tuesday, get feedback. The name doesn't matter. If it works for you to teach it as a D5, do it. Okay, I think it would remove some confusion I foresee between 4D engineer and D4 method. So I'm seeing that teaching and then a tie-in with how I came to realize it, which is from the Colby A or the Strength Finder, and then maybe sending them to either the Strength Finder or the Sole Purpose. You didn't complete the Sole Purpose yet. Yes, that's true. I haven't done the new one yet. I can, though. I'll have to consider that against all the other things I need to do. As I'm now thinking about it, I can see that that would be a further down option. Maybe what happens on the back end of the challenge. Challenge gets them into power and perspective, which they require before they make any decision. Then the D5 design training to lead them into Sole Purpose. Because the idea is that they cannot decide what they want to be if they don't know themselves. And then use the Sole Purpose to get them aligned with where they want to go. I should make this into a problems possibility training. Problems. You think changing jobs is going to make you feel satisfied. Problem 2, you expect your work to provide all your fulfillment. Problem 3, you don't think working on yourself is part of the equation. Problem 4, you are more comfortable staying stuck than you are working to see what else is out there. Possibilities. Possibility 1, you recognize that changing jobs is a valuable move if where you are isn't aligned with your purpose. Possibility number 2, you know deeply that your work is only a piece of your fulfillment and that you own that it's your job to provide in your other domains. Possibility number 3, you know that working on yourself makes everything better, including your work. Possibility number 4, you know that comfort is death, and the only way to expand it is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Well, shit. Well done. That is part of your message. Me, this could easily go into the message that you aren't ready to change jobs without upgrading yourself first, and then send them to a checklist to see if they're ready. Okay, I'm feeling this planning process. It's exciting, and I just want to map it out. I'm feeling a pull and drive from places I've never truly felt it before. Is this what alignment feels like? Welcome home. Amen. What is a single lesson on life you're taking from this prayer stack? Follow my process. Taking the appropriate time to plan is part of my process. Forcing it is never going to work. What is the most significant revelation or insight you are leaving this prayer stack with? And why do you feel that way? Authenticity is everything. Authenticity in everything. What immediate actions you committed to taking leaving the stack? Map out the planning for the next 3 days. Target hitting council with the focus maps complete and just seeking the one perspective to pivot. That stack process is something I do every day. It's pivotal to my life. It's pivotal to every single day that I do. And if you are an engineering leader, an engineer, and even if you're not, if this resonates with you and you want to understand what it is to work through this process, to have access to this, I want you to send me a DM. Send me a message. If you want to follow along the journey, follow, like, subscribe, all the things. Have a great day.